supposed to know I see it differently.
Today, I really needed to get out and get some fresh air because yesterday I filmed 2 client projects in one day.
Cause every time you tell me
it was truly a long day.
but nothing ever changes. And now I see, baby, you are hurting me.
Yesterday was also my first time using the RSC2 on a client project. Along with the RSC2, I used the Lumix S5, Viltrox 20mm Cine Lens, and the DJI Focus Motor. So today, I'm taking a hike up the mountain so that I can clear my head and really reflect on my experience yesterday filming with the RSC2. The first project I filmed yesterday was a style shoot, which is a photo and video shoot compiled of several wedding vendors that will eventually be submitted for publication. My second shoot yesterday was a housewarming event. However, I'm not sure if you can call an event for a 20,000 square foot house simply a housewarming. There is a lot to like about the RSC2. One example is yesterday before I left my house to head to my first shoot, I had already balanced the gimbal. So when I arrived at both of my film shoots, I didn't have to rebalance the gimbal at all. I just unfolded the RSC2, put the camera back on it, and I was ready to start filming. Every time I arrive at a new shoot and restart the RSC2, I do run the auto calibration just to be sure that the settings are fine-tuned as possible. At the style shoot, I started my day by getting some initial B-roll shots of all the prep, like the model getting her makeup done and the food being prepared by the chefs. At the housewarming event, I also started with some filming of the floral designs and the chef and his team preparing all the food for the guests. I filmed all of the chef's prep shots at 24 frames per second as I wanted those shots to have a nice organic feel to them, and I was pretty happy with how they turned out using the RSC2. I'm always attracted to filming subjects while they are backlit. I really like the dramatic effect you get from backlighting, and if I can find some beams of light to add to my shot, that's even better. At the style shoot, I fell in love with a patch of light perfectly bursting through a window. So I decided that would be the area where I would use the S5 and the RSC2 to get some of my detail shots of the stylized dishes created by our chefs. So I will typically film detail shots like these at 60 frames per second so that I can slow the shot down in post to further remove any shakiness in my shots. I also had the S5's image stabilization turned on. So here are the shots at normal speed. And here are the shots slowed down to 40%. I like that. Back at the housewarming, once the lighting outside was perfect, I started to get my exterior shots of the house. For these shots, I used both the GH5 on the Crane 2 and the S5 on the RSC2. This is a client project, so I will be getting shots in both 24 frames per second and 60 frames per second, as I know I'll want to slow down some of my shots in post. This is a good time to talk about the DJI Focus Motor. It took me a little time to get used to using the focus wheel on the RSC2 as I initially kept reaching for the lens to adjust the focus. But once I got the hang of it, I don't think I could live without it. The placement of the gimbal's focus dial is perfect for this type of handheld gimbal setup. But my time using the focus wheel, at least with cine lenses like the Viltrox 20mm, was almost short-lived. A lot of you are probably already aware that cine lenses have hard stops at the lens's closest focal distance and at infinity. So if you're using a focus motor, you'll need to be able to set up hard stops so that the focus motor won't keep spinning when you reach the end of the lens's focus. When I tried to use the Ronin app to calibrate the focus motor, the motor would keep spinning, which can very well damage my lens. I spent hours searching for a solution online, and this is the solution I found to get the app to create the hard stops. Within the Ronin app, I enabled push mode, which enables you to manually control the pan and tilt axis. Then, as soon as I initiated the focus motor calibration, I firmly held the focus motor securely to the lens so that it would not slip out of place during the calibration process. The calibration will eventually make the focus motor rotate to each hard stop, and boom, your focus points are set. Unless this is a hardware limitation, I think DJI can easily fix this with a firmware update to make this process a lot easier. I've been up here in the mountains for a few hours now, so this is a good time to talk about the RSC2's battery life. Yesterday, back at the housewarming event, I finished up all of the B-roll of the property, and then the event started and I had to film a few performances back to back with the RSC2. A glowing ballet dance sequence, a dazzling light show, a dope performance by saxophonist Trey Daniels, and several amazing songs performed by Johnny Gill. So after filming a 3-hour style shoot in the morning and about 5 hours of the housewarming event, the RSC2's battery was almost dead. And it died right as Belle Biv DeVoe was about to perform. Now, this was not a big deal at all because I was filming with two GH5s as my primary cameras, one on a tripod and the other on the Zion Crane 2. However, if the RSC2 was my only gimbal, that situation would be a little vexing since you cannot swipe out the battery. Your only option is to charge it. I did notice that the battery on the RSC2 did last much longer a few days ago when I was filming with it, when I did not have it hooked up to my camera and the focus motor. So I hooked up the RSC2 to my power bank, filmed the beginning of Belle Biv DeVoe's performance with the GH5, and in 20 minutes, I had a 25% charge on the RSC2, so I filmed the rest of BBD's performance with the RSC2 and the Lumix S5. The S5, being a full-frame camera, obviously handled the low-light party situations a lot better than the GH5. With the GH5, the highest I will push the ISO is to 1600. And with the S5, I was more than comfortable going to ISO 4000 and even higher, but ISO 4000 was the highest I needed to go for these events. And with that, my first day of client shoots with the RSC2 came to an end. So I had two questions that I wanted to focus on today. One was the purchase of the RSC2 worth it for my client projects? And two, does the RSC2 make my life easier? Well, right now I don't find it more stable than my Crane 2, and I don't find it less stable than my Crane 2 either, but to be fair, I might not have found the right settings yet. I don't like the fact that I can't swap out the battery in the RSC2. I can swap out the batteries in my Crane 2, so I never had to worry about my Crane 2 dying while I was filming an event. So I was really hoping to get that advertised 14 hours of battery life that DJI claimed. So I would highly recommend keeping a power bank with you for all of your shoots. On the plus side, the RSC2 is smaller and lighter than my current gimbal, which is great for filming long events as my arms will get less tired. And it takes up way less room in my camera bag, which keeps my camera bag lighter. And I can balance it faster than any other gimbal that I've used thus far, because I can balance it at home and then put it in my bag, and then once I get to the shoot, I'm good to go. So my conclusion is I really like the RSC2, but it's not as perfect as I had hoped, but I guess no piece of gear is. But at least for right now, its portability and ease of use outweigh the limitations of its battery. Well, I'm so glad that I came out here to reflect on my experience with this gimbal, and I guess it's time to head back down the mountain. Peace.
You make it hard to say goodbye. I die a little every time. I find it impossible to leave you with that look in your eyes. So you make it hard to say goodbye. Little tiny Aphrodite, I don't wanna wake you up. When you smile in your sleep, I wonder what you're dreaming of. You got that temporary cherry blossom potion on your lips. I wanna swallow up your ocean, but I only got a sip, and there's an Uber on the way because my flight is in an hour. I still gotta pack a bag and brush my teeth and take